It's another year later and Pro Evolution Soccer is back with Pro Evolution Soccer 2018. Now PES 18 doesn't promise a lot of new offerings compared to last year's edition, but the developers did make a great effort in securing more licenses in order to have more real teams and legends in throughout the game. This means that most of the improvements in this year's game went to under the hood additions to the gameplay and to the different game modes. But with so much of the focus being on gameplay this year, one has to wonder if Pro Evo 18 is finally ready to overtake its counterpart from EA Sports as the champion of the virtual pitch. PES 18 plays similarly to that of 2017. There's the usual smooth, slow-paced gameplay that differentiates PES from the other big player on the market, FIFA. The pace is great, especially when you play against the AI. It allows for a realistic rhythm of play on the pitch. However, this might not always be the case when you play online. There are different ways to increase the speed of the players and the ball, and consequently of the game itself. This means that you can play a good ball control game and can also change the style of play for a more long ball game right in the middle. Of course, provided that you have a great striker that can convert all these crosses into goals. Refs have been greatly improved as well. Now the refs finally play the advantage and are much less strict than in years past, including the recently released beta. This allows for a more realistic and enjoyable on-field experience. Another thing that was greatly improved since the beta especially are the ball physics. The ball feels heavy enough, and most importantly, crazy bounces between players were cut to the minimum. Overall, the gameplay is very well done. You can play different styles, you can feel the difference between the players, especially between the good and average, and you've got a lot of tactical options to play with. In addition, changing your module can be a good way to have a bigger influence on your game. You'll find yourself moving players around more often than not to try and counter the opposition's tactics or to exploit weak points in the other team. The AI's decision makes sense in most of the cases as well in PES 18. Defensemen stay where they should, but it's advisable to juggle a bit the different tactics to see what fits your team more. I've found that the default positional defensive system a bit too static with the players I'm not in control of. The system that I had more success with is this flexible one. Here the defense are more mobile and willing to leave their position to cover the other men as the ball moves past them. However, this system is probably not the best when you don't have top-notch or fast defensemen in your squad. One of the most rewarding parts of the game though is passing. You can really tailor your passing game to your team. You can play more of a ticky-tack game as modern teams try to play, or you can play more long balls and crosses. Remember that you need to have the right players to play the right style. A one-size-fits-all approach won't work in PES 2018. Of course, there are a few shortcomings. High through balls are too exact. They're pretty much always on spot, even on the longer distances. However, the AI doesn't use them too often. Another thing that was expected to improve with the full release were goalies. In particular, the goalie animations. Netminders are consistent and they get a save when they need to. However, especially with the long-range shooting, the animations are goofy and many times you'll find your goalie getting a save with an over-spectacular dive all the way to his side when a couple of lateral steps would have been more than enough. The gameplay does seem to have too many fancy moves. Even with the less talented players, you'll see AI or human-controlled players doing heel touches, overhead kicks, bicycle kicks, and all sorts of spectacular moves that are well represented, but after a bit can become annoying, especially when the non-elite players get involved.
So a very warm welcome to you from the Catalan capital, Barcelona. We are at this grandest...
The graphics are good, but they're not spectacular in Pro Evo 2018. Now, Pro Evolution Soccer has never been a game you go out and buy for its presentation, and while there were many improvements, Pro Evolution Soccer 2018 is still visually well behind the competition. Kits are well rendered, even the non-licensed ones though, and most of the top players have a realistic appearance. Now, stadiums weren't changed much from the 2017 release, but they do already have a very decent look to them, and the atmosphere inside the stadiums is nice and well rendered, but the immersion factor could stand to be improved going forward. Another area where the Pro Evolution Soccer developers put a lot of work in is the different game modes this year. You can play solo or play online against your friends, and the online gaming is usually smooth, although the matchmaking is sometimes slow to find an opponent. Now, one of the most appreciated features has historically been the Master League. For the new game, Konami has added new features and improved things from last year, an example being the Specialty Scouts. It does seem to be the good old Master League every Pro Evolution fan appreciates, and the lack of licenses can be forgotten by downloading the so-called option files. But that's an option for PC and PlayStation players only, as Xbox consoles don't support this kind of modding. On top of that, you have the My Club mode, where not much has changed since 2017. You can rename your club or use the existing ones, hire a good coach, and of course, pay a lot of attention to the team spirit, which is arguably the most important thing in My Club. Just like last year, the My Club mode is a very interesting part of the game. Like real life, you shouldn't just go all out trying to amass star players. You need to find a good balance between your players and your tactics. If you want to dive into a Be a Pro adventure, the Become a Legend mode will allow you to play through the career of a professional footballer. The flow of the mode is pretty standard. You can create a player, give him a name, choose his appearance, and start playing in one of the leagues featured in the game. You'll then start small with the focus of becoming great as you play your way through different seasons. The Become a Legend mode is fun, but it lacks originality. All in all, Pro Evolution 2018 is a very good game. It has less of a wow factor than the competition, but it scores well with realistic gameplay, solid game modes, and a good presentation. Now, it's not a perfect game by any means, and the great gameplay is a bit flawed by the excessive flamboyance of the players, but the overall feel of Pro Evolution Soccer 2018 won't make you regret the dollars spent. For more on Pro Evo 2018, stick to sportsgamersonline.com.